Welcome back to Life Lab. Some stories are defined by a single day. Others are defined by what happens during the decades that follow. Whether you believe these stories or simply find them interesting, near-death experiences, or NDEs, often raise profound questions about consciousness, purpose, and what it really means to be alive. Today's guest is Louisa Peck. Louisa is an author, speaker, and former self-described die-hard atheist whose life changed after suffering a cardiac arrest in a Manhattan nightclub in 1982. During that experience, she describes leaving her body, encountering her ancestors, and experiencing what she believes was an emotional, overwhelming presence of unconditional love. But what fascinated me most about Louisa's story wasn't simply what happened during those few extraordinary moments. It was what happened next. Rather than immediately embracing what she'd experienced, Louisa spent decades trying to explain it away. She wrestled with skepticism, addiction, recovery, and the difficult process of reconciling an experience that challenged nearly everything she believed about reality. More than 40 years later, she's still exploring those questions through her writing, her conversations, and the way she chooses to live her life. Whether you've come to this conversation from a place of faith, skepticism, or simple curiosity, my hope is that you'll leave with something worth thinking about. This is my conversation with Louisa Peck.
Louisa!
Hi, Shannon.
How are you? In beautiful
I'm good.
Oregon.
So how are you?
I am fantastic. I feel like I'm meeting a celebrity right now. I love the glasses. Today, I'm joined by Louisa Peck, a writer, speaker, YouTube creator, and near-death experiencer, whose story is especially compelling because she spent years trying not to believe what happened to her initially. In 1982, at just 22 years old, Louisa suffered a drug-related cardiac arrest in a New York City nightclub. That nightclub was called
The Peppermint Lounge.
Peppermint, not Limelight. The Peppermint
Lounge.
At the time, she describes herself as a committed atheist at that time, and even after an extraordinary near-death experience involving her ancestors, a profound encounter with what she describes as overwhelming love and light, and the message that she wasn't done yet, she largely tried to explain the entire thing away. But her story doesn't end there. Over the following years, Louisa continued to struggle with addiction, eventually getting sober around 1995, while also experiencing a growing number of unusual events that challenged the worldview she had spent much of her life defending. She writes about the journey in her book, Die Hard Atheist, former NDE denier to full-on woo-woo against my will. I can concur with that. And she also shares more of her experiences and reflections on her YouTube channel. Today, Louisa is deeply focused on connection between spiritual and physical well-being. She's an avid hiker and climber, now living on the Oregon coast, where she remains extremely active while continuing to write, speak, create, and reflect on more than 4 decades of living with this experience and what it has taught her. So Louisa, thank you for joining me and being here.
Thank you, Shannon. That was such an excellent intro, and you know all my stuff. I feel like you should talk for me.
Well, what's funny is I was gonna kind of start who was Louisa before all of this, but I kind of know Louisa. Well,
I have 2 books. This book, is this backwards for you? Probably is.
Nope, it's not.
Maybe. Okay, this is one of them, and my cat's there. So this is called The Spiritual Evolution, and this is my addiction story. And I had double addictions. I had like substance addiction, but before I found alcohol, I had masturbation addiction, and then kind of what I call crush rush, infatuation addiction. I would go from one infatuation to the next. And the high that I got from being infatuated was as good as cocaine. Every bit. You know what I'm talking about? The magic person. You put the magic cape on them, and all of a sudden when you're with them, you just feel high as a kite, right? And so I would kind of go from one of those and then I was a serial monogamist, because I would get with the person and then they'd lose their magic because they farted and they were wrong sometimes. And you go, no, this person is not a savior. They're just another schmuck like me. So then you find another savior.
Like me, darn it, they're not supposed to. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so that went on for years. And this does have a lot of the paranormal events. The subtitle is How 14 After Effects of My Near-Death Experience Helped Cure My Addictions and Changed My Life. But this is written before I'd really just right when I went public at IANS. And so I didn't have any context of NDEs when I wrote that book. I was just kind of, here's what happened, and then these other weird things happened, and now and because of the things that my guardian angel said to me, I was led to AA. I was given spiritual lessons like straight on. This is a time when was totally like hating on myself, and people were singing happy birthday to me, and he's there. Do you see something by the back of my head?
Oh my goodness, the upper right hand. Yes.
Yeah, it's an orb. And so
yes.
He was communicating to me, this is the whole point of life. Just let them love you. That's what he said. It's the whole point of life. Just let them love you.
Who is he saying? Your guardian angel.
He's my guardian angel. Yeah. Okay. And he's the one, if we get to my NDE, so this is just my NDE. And then so this kind of takes up in a way where the first one left off. In a way, although yes. It goes back over all the weird things, but
now you have more of the language and experience to discuss it in that book. Or to
right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that having had a lot of shame around my addictions, especially the sexual addiction, especially the masturbation addiction, I did not want to be weird in any way. And so now when I hear you tell about my near-death experience, it sounds like so many hallmarks of classic near-death experience. How could she not know? But it was 1982. I didn't know the word near-death experience. The whole idea of the light being what everyone sees, the love being what everyone feels, being told you can't stay, you're not done yet. Those are all hallmarks of NDE. But to me, I was the only one. I was the only one. And so I'm not going to say this really happened. I would tell it like it was just some kind of hallucination. And then I stopped telling it maybe around 1983 or 84. And yet when I finally went to International Association of Near-Death Studies meetings, and they said, well, you tell your story. I got up and I'm just like, and I can just tell the whole thing, because spiritual memories are different than experiential memories. You're in a different place. You're directly recording energy rather than sensations through your various orifices.
Let me say something about that. And I want to talk about your other book, The Purpose of Gravity and Other Stories, in a moment.
Yeah.
Too. The short stories you wrote when you were younger.
Uh-huh. And there's another too. There's a new book that I should go get.
You just proactively spoke to something that I have been meaning to ask in years. It seems that I have learned, as I'm learning in my extremely novice understanding of this, the phrase knowing is commonly used. And then also, I'll sometimes say like, wow, was it like all the information was downloaded to you instantly? And also just talk about telepathic communication. You just said like spiritual memory is different than kind of like physical experiential memory. I'm sorry, like we're here in the present, like in the earth plane. And that's what I'm like, people come, and then how you said, I can tell the whole thing from beginning to end, which I do want to hear that, but also more about what your learnings and message for the world is and why you came forward. And we're so glad you did, by the way, and please never stop doing that. Be authentic in who you are, your past, what happened. It helps us all. It helps me. But there's mass amounts of information that people come back with, and the detail. And it's like, you would have to be in a classroom for hours, weeks, days, months. And then you'd have to repeat the information and rote memory to over and over. And so that is key, as you mentioned, that it's
But
different.
most of them are told, most are told you're not going to remember the bulk of what we're telling you here. You're not, like, it's not going to stay in your brain. The whole idea of our brains are not capable of hanging on to these concepts that are beyond our 3D experience. Or we get, some people bring back more than others, right?
Right.
I feel I often, like, kind of, people don't like me to do this, but I poo-poo my own near-death experience because I don't feel like I got that far, right? I'll tell the whole thing now if you want, and then I'll explain, like, how far I didn't get.
It's helpful for you to say or explain that spiritual memory is different. Is it different in that? Is it more information that can be transmitted and more quickly and retained than experiential memories? How is this type of memory different than the experiential memory, would you say? How is spiritual memory different than?
My experiential memories are choppy and they don't flow well. Like, I'll try to think about maybe this morning in gym class, I had a conversation with someone and I can kind of picture her, and I'm not sure exactly what we said, but I know what we were talking about. When I put the needle on the vinyl record of my NDE, it just flows perfectly. And it's like I'm there again. It's when I'm telling it to you, I'm there again. I'm not saying, oh, I think we talked about how my broken shoulder is healing. And, you know, I'm there again in a way that I'm not. Also, if I zoom in on any of my paranormal experiences, like the various times that I call my guardian angel Ignacio, because we agreed on that name during the pandemic. I could tell that story.
EG versus I, right?
Yeah, right. So anytime that Ignacio, like, intervened in my life, it has that same permanent quality, where it's very vivid. So I think I'm going to tell my story in a slightly accelerated way, if you don't mind, Shannon, because if people want to hear, there's many versions on YouTube. Each one's a little different, you know?
Yes.
But it can take a long time to tell it if I tell it in detail, right?
Okay. So maybe just that night at
Peppermint
the bar,
Lounge.
and you were 22 and the year, and the lidocaine, whoops, instead of the cocaine.
So I'll just tell people, I was in Manhattan, living in Manhattan, because I thought it was the coolest place to be, having graduated from college. And I was really, really on a mission to be cool. That was my God, because I had been very unpopular in high school. I had endured a lot of high school pain, which I know a lot of people do, but to me, it just felt like I especially was a loser in high school. So I was going to, like, counteract all of that by being super cool after college. And I went to the Peppermint Lounge with a friend that I knew had a lot of cocaine. We did all of his cocaine, and we are starting to come down. And I was so close to just feeling totally cool, did not want to come down. So we bought some more there at the club. I had a lot of tip money. I was a bus girl in those days, and he had money, and we just got what we thought was a gram of coke, and we put it on our gums to test it, and it numbed them, so we bought it. And then as soon as we started snorting it, he said, "We've been had. This is not cocaine." And he was a former dealer, or maybe still dealer, I don't know. So, but anyway, he knew. But I thought maybe it's just really crappy cocaine, and if I snort the whole pile, I'll get high. So I did. It was lidocaine, as I learned later from my reformed drug dealer friends in AA. Told me it was very common to cut cocaine with lidocaine, and it sounds like what we got was pretty much pure lidocaine, or just pure lidocaine. Anyway, it's poison. It shuts down your autonomic nervous system. So it's going to stop my heart. It's going to stop my breathing. It's going to stop all the nerves that run your body. Basically, it's just going to shut the power down. So I began to very, very slowly faint. Like, It was just the periphery of my vision going blind here and slowly closing in. And it seemed to be getting darker and darker because my brain wasn't getting enough oxygen. All I thought was, who knew cocaine had these cool side effects? Like, I was not scared. Where I came from at that point with alcohol and cocaine was that it was all good. They were my friends. They were my friends. They weren't going to hurt me.
Did the alcohol and drugs start a few years before that, or like?
No, you got to read this one. So they basically started when I was 3. That's when I discovered how fun it was to get drunk, when I was 3. And that it took away any kind of anxiousness or anything. Because my dad would leave me with his drink, and I would just down a gin and tonic, or I would down a scotch and soda. And yeah,
I kind of want to
he'd come back and be like, what happened to my drink? But anyway, so I began to feel like there was no air in the nightclub. Even if I breathed intentionally, because my heart rate was going slower and slower, 30, 20, whatever beats a minute, it wasn't getting to my brain. So I was having the sensation of suffocating while breathing. So I said, there's no air in here. There's no air. We were in the basement, and I was angry that nobody else noticed that there was no air. He took me to the bartender. The bartender said, calm down. Here's a glass of water. Did not want the glass of water, but I took a sip. And that's when I felt the bang on my chin. And my last thought was, did I collapse and hit my chin on the bar? Because it felt like a bang. But I guess it was more like that's when the grand mal seizure kicked in. When it's like a grand mal seizure is like, wham, you're just going, and then you're all over the floor having your seizure. That was the last sensation I felt, because they said I went over backwards. But and I had bruises all over the back of my head, all over my arms and hands and everything the next day. But I did not stay there. I shot up in the air like I'd been fired out of a cannon. I was in the beautiful blue sky, going up and up and up, and the ocean was under me. So I got the idea to do the back bend, and I did a back bend, and it came out perfect. And then I was diving toward the ocean, had a passing thought, would it be like concrete, going from this height, but no fear. Just to kind of like, I've heard there's no fear on the other side, because we need fear here to keep us in our bodies. That's its function. And when you're pure spirit, it's just kind of habit to wonder these things, but the feeling of fear doesn't come to you. So no, I dove down into the ocean, way down deep. Once again, I had a thought, look how high the surface is, although it was beautiful. And I was also filled with wonder because the bubbles were coming up around me and they were beautiful. But I thought, how am I going to get to the surface? As soon as I think that thought, I'm kind of at the surface. And I don't question this. I can see once I'm at the surface where the land is, and I decide I want to go there. And I even have the thought, I'm a terrible swimmer. I hate swimming. But next thing I know, I'm wading through the waves. And again, instead of saying like, how the heck did that happen? I'm just like, cool. Because none of these things are physically there, and so there's nothing to stop me from being where I choose to be, right? Think of it more like a game, a video game. And so then I saw an old house up on a mesa, and it looked very weather worn. It was a pale blue and with like wooden shingles. I wanted to get to it, but instead of zooming right to the house, I zoomed to the bottom of the mesa, or sea stack, if you know what sea stacks are. So I'm at the bottom of it, and it's all covered with like gross, what I thought was rotting seaweed. And to get to it, I had to climb it. I thought to myself, I'm strong, I can do this. It's really gross, but it's not going to stop me. And now, being a woo-woo and having heard so many other near-death experiences as an interviewer, I know that this is our gross stuff that we have picked up to cope. It's our ego. It's our, meanness, vanity, judgment, all of these yucky things. I had to climb above them to get to that house. So I did. But when I got to the house, I had lost my body. I was now just a little point of awareness, like a GoPro camera or something this high off the floor. I went over the door sill, immediately knew it was the home of my ancestors, not the house of my ancestors. It was a way station that all my ancestors had passed through. And that was what I knew. We all passed through this house. And I didn't really think on our way to death, on our way to heaven, or all I was thinking of then was this is what we do. And we was what was occupying my thoughts, because in life as a 22-year-old, I didn't give a rat's ass about my relatives. I didn't give a rat's ass about my ancestors. I didn't know any of them. But when I was on the other side, the sense of lineage, the sense of their having handed down to me what was sacred, and now my turn to go join them, all of these things were huge. I had big feelings of being honored to be there. And I could especially feel my grandfather, who died before I was born. He was just very, very excited to meet me, but they were all so loving, excited. It's like I couldn't see them, but it's as if they're going, yeah, like cross the finish line. Yes. That's kind of the energy that they all had. So there was supposed to be a chair in the room where they all, in their transition, sat and just loved the view of the ocean. And I was bummed because it wasn't there, number one. And two, I was only this high from the ground. I could see the floorboards really, really well, but I couldn't see out the window. And so I just thought, I want to see. And as soon as I did, then something grabbed me by my sternum and pulled me over the floorboards. And that was the beginning of the delicious feeling. And I can only say, like, when you've been waiting forever for the roller coaster to start because they're putting people in the cars and it's taken a lot. And then finally you feel it pull you and you feel like, yay, we're good. That's how I felt, like, yes, I'm moving across the floor. And then I didn't know what was next, but I went up to the windowsill and then I went over the windowsill and out. And when that happened, I was just like, this is crazy. I don't know what's happening, but it's amazing and it feels amazing. And so then the sun was straight in front of me and it was setting. And so that path it makes across the water was gold. And I zoomed over that going so fast. And around me was the beautiful colors of the sunset. Every color of, from indigo to whatever, to red. They were beautiful, beautiful. And I'm zooming forward and it's feeling so wonderful, this feeling of moving forward, because my vibration is rising. That's what I know now, is my vibration is rising to the point where I can meet the sun. And I didn't know that then, but I had a feeling like, this is too perfect. Like, beautiful surroundings, people fly in dreams, is this real? And that's when Ignacio spoke to me for the first time. He said, more real than anything back there. And this is why it's a knowing. It's because it's not individual words. It's not more real than, and it's just like, there it is, the whole idea. And so I had to admit he was right. And I didn't think of him as he then, but it was kind of a resonance inside my bones that felt powerful, just powerful. Like mega, mega, mega deep bass, if you can think of that, that's just going in your bones or something. So I zoom ahead and the sun gets bigger and bigger as I get closer. And so I think, wow, am I going to vaporize? I mean, again, with just this curiosity. And then instead of hitting the sun, I went through a filament and I was in the sun. And I am going to pause to say that my father was a very adamant atheist, but he had told me that I came from the sun, because every bit of energy on earth, whether it's in a plant or an animal or a tree or a fossil fuel, it all comes from the sun. The only things that don't are geothermal and tidal energy. So he had said, you are made of the sun. And so that's why it was my God. So it was my creator in my mind, right? So I went, I was
maybe
in the
why
sun.
you think you saw the sun?
What's that?
Do you think maybe that's why your imagery...
That is why I saw the sun. Right. If I had believed in some Jesus or some other figure, I probably would have seen them. But I was in the sun now, and all I could see was the light, and it was just brilliant, brilliant light. And then I noticed the love, and the love was like seeping. It was in me. It was warmth and love and comfort and goodness and all at once, just saturating me. And my thought at the time was, finally, because my whole life, my love I'd gotten from my parents had been very conditional, and I never felt loved. And now I finally felt completely loved. And then I began to feel like I was being held like an infant. My shoulder broke recently, so this isn't easy to do. And a being who I now know was Ignacio was just pouring love into me. And this is a guardian angel. I now know that, like, you're paired with your guardian angels and some other people for eons and eons and centuries and centuries and generations and generations. So he's known me in all my incarnations, and that means, like, I got them back because I'm usually male. And I love them so much. And it's kind of like, I tell people, think about if you've ever like had a toddler that you just adored, or a puppy or whatever, and you put them out in the yard and they get into all this trouble and fall down and hit themselves and cry and stuff and come back to you, and you're just like, I love you so much. That's kind of how he was. I now know he is anyway. He's masculine energy. That's all I can say. He is masculine energy. And my energy is pretty masculine too, I gotta say. But anyway, so all of a sudden, when everything's perfect and I'm just couldn't be happier, then he says, you can't stay, you're not done yet. And boom, it goes black. Not only does everything go black, but I feel like I'm dropping because my vibration is dropping enough to get back in the body. Now, people have gotten pissed at me because I say I was so angry that I wanted to kick the parent, which is why I thought of the one holding me. I wanted to kick them in the shins. I wanted to show them with a tantrum that they couldn't send me back. But here's the thing. I feel that around our bodies, we have an aura of fear and anger. And these are what keep us spirit blind. We are supposed to function autonomously in our bodies. If we were always picking up all the spirit answers, we wouldn't survive in our bodies, because who wants to stay
you have
in
the answer. Say, I'm not staying in this meat suit. This meat
right
sack.
in the meat suit, but also like we'd be distracted with spiritual things, and the predator would get us or whatever, so we are sealed in kind of like by this membrane of fear and anger. So in passing back through that to get into my body, I felt this rage and this before that, this fear. There were some other stages of coming back to my body, but I will just say that when I realized that the figure I was seeing was a human and was speaking to me in language, I felt this tremendous disappointment, sadness, despair, and realized I was back in the meat puppet was the thought that I had at the time. Because it's like a puppet, you move.
Oh yeah, the world makes us a puppet.
Yeah, and that he wanted me to like make these sounds, and to me it seemed like he wanted me to burp out these sounds that I just, even the small amount of telepathy that I'd experienced on the other side, words are like charades. They're like these vocal charades, as opposed to just knowledge of what the other person is thinking.
Right.
And so I had to say my name. And then another part I should maybe tell is when we were waiting for the ambulance, I was just sitting there smoking cigarettes again and just back to being my little bratty 22-year-old self. And the bartender had been doing CPR on me the whole time. And he was talking to my date for a while I'm just smoking. And then he turned to me and he said, "You were gone a long time." And then he said, 3 minutes or more. And my date said, "Oh yeah, or more." And I felt just incredibly embarrassed. You know how teenagers get so embarrassed? I was still kind of in that stage, and I felt so embarrassed. And then I thought, and he had his mouth on my mouth, and this whole "you were dead" thing is so dramatic, and it was too dramatic for me. I couldn't handle it. So I just said, "Yeah, thanks." and like they're out of the mouth of a brat. So I never thanked him, though he saved my life. And I keep hoping he'll see one of these videos and say, hey, I used to work at the Peppermint Lounge. And if he does, I hope he reaches out to me. But anyway, we can fast forward until I was alone again the next day. I had already told the story to my roommate and been like, isn't that crazy? And we'd figured out that I had some brain damage because there were some words in the New York Times that just looked like Greek to me. I'd be like, word I knew, Greek. Word I knew, like just could not read certain words. And I had left her and I wanted to write it in my journal or something. I sat alone in we only had a shared bedroom because it's New York City. And I thought, I know this was not a dream. So what was it? And I saw two paths. It was unlike any experience I'd ever had. So it could not be a dream. It did not have that kind of jumbled feeling. It had this ultra real feeling. So on the one hand, I thought, okay, I crossed over. That's the first thing I knew. I crossed over. Really? But to me, that only meant church. It only meant Christianity. It only meant like, now I'm going to have to turn into a goody and read the freaking Bible and like, go hang out with the preacher and other goody people. And I was just like, no, that is so not me. And then the other alternative was that my brain was shutting down from hypoxia. And this is the one that I went with, that as it shut down, it went back to its most basic memories, which were just love. And I'm like, okay, so love seemed really big and all powerful because everything else in my brain had shut down. And it's so funny because now I hear these stupid scientists trying to figure out how NDEs happen in the brain. And I hear them say all the things that I thought of. Oh, it's hypoxia. Oh no, everything else is shutting down. So the brain does this love thing to comfort. And like, I'm just like, yeah, guys, I tried that. But explain the like 20 paranormal things that happened after that, but anyway, so I just slammed the door on the idea that I had crossed over. It would have been so different if I had even known one other person who had gone through this. But as far as I was concerned, I was just a complete anomaly and no one else knew about this. So I hear now, I get jealous of the people who come back and they're like, I had a near-death experience. I crossed over to the other side. I'm like, you lucky. It took me 30 years to
It's a different day and time, yeah. It's like we were talking about earlier, how the internet has made the world smaller at the same time, but also bigger. And just with the free flowing of information, folks, everything just moves faster these days. And so folks have much more awareness of things. So it's kind of fast-tracked now.
Yes, and it has let near-death experiencers find each other. We couldn't find each other before. So each person was like me, keeping their story to themselves rather than seeming crazy. And then here, this is my list of weird things that I used to keep, the paranormal events, along with the time frame of when they happen.
You show it there and just like hold it up for a second and a little closer. So like, the Gloucester ghost.
It's too big because it keeps going.
Yeah.
And then I kept adding them. And then now I've just had more than I can put down.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. No.
There's been so many just in the last year. So, I mean, I can tell any of these stories.
Can I?
The first one was.
Well, can I ask you some practicalities about the experience and about Ignacio and stuff? Just before we get. Does Ignacio have a voice or an accent?
He doesn't have a voice. He doesn't have a voice, and he gives me knowings, but yet when I hear from him, there is this sense of the profoundness, the deepness, and he's usually contradicting something that I want to say or think or do, and so it's kind of like he will interrupt my thought with something else you know, and then I will be like, no, I don't want to do that.
While you're awake, sometimes people are asleep, they are in meditation. Could it happen at any
He's
time?
butting in. He is butting in. So like, let's take the one when my sister was dying and I was in the hospital room, right?
Sure.
And when I would close my eyes, I would get a sense of the light coming in through the hospital room and pooling over her body and swirling like a galaxy. I had a sense of the light like that. And I'd open my eyes, I'd see nothing, you know, and I'd be like, what is this silliness that I am thinking? And then he comes and he says, she's afraid to cross. You've got to help her. And you got to tell her about the light. And this is the farthest thing from my mind. What, I'm supposed to tell her about the weird thing that happened in the nightclub in the Peppermint Lounge when she's dying? Like, what are you talking about, right? And he just would not let up. And so I kind of argue with him. And I think to myself, well, she's not conscious. And then he will play back. Remember the phone call you had with her when she said, when I'm on morphine, people think I'm not alive and awake, but I hear everything. And he played back for me that I hear everything. And then, like, why is she afraid to cross? He played back what my younger sister had told me, that the last words pretty much that she said was, dying of cancer at 41 is the biggest diss God can give you. So she had been bullied all her life, young life, all her childhood, for being overweight and smart and having glasses and messy hair and everything. And she had kind of seen God as bullying her. And you cannot cross if you shut yourself off from God. That's hell. Hell is not rejoining source and leaving your body.
Here on this plane, is that maybe the source of what people call ghosts or spirits here?
Yes, it is a ghost. And this house was very haunted by a ghost who was too pissed to cross over. I can tell you her story. She's gone now, thank goodness. But anyway, you can't cross while you're angry. You can't cross while you're feeling like self-pity and all, you know, you have to feel some love, right? And so I finally did what he said and got down and described the light to her. And she was Catholic. So I said, Jesus will be with you and Jesus' love will be all around you. Instead of the sun, I changed the sun to Jesus. And I told her, you know, God is so proud of you and you've done such a beautiful job here on earth and I love you. And my brother was there too. And he was looking at me like, why is she talking to her when she's clearly not conscious? And then 20 minutes later, she hemorrhaged and she died. And then I was raging at the doctor in my heart because the doctor put the stethoscope on my sister and said, her heart is still beating, but it'll stop when it runs out of oxygen. Like that was a good thing.
What? Okay, talk about.
She had hemorrhaged. Yeah, she had hemorrhaged and she had cancer and stage whatever, you know, and so it was over for her, but I just couldn't really. I just felt like save her, even though it wasn't really possible. So I just wanted to strangle the little doctor. And then my sister suddenly
delivered the information is not.
I know she was very insensitive, but my sister filled me with the light. She filled me with love. And I went from feeling rage to just feeling joy. And my sister's love had a special quality to it. Anyone that you think of that you love, you can remember kind of like the flavor or the scent of their love, not literally, but it's just like, what does it feel to be with this person when they are loving me? And it has a certain vibration. And that was what I could feel from my sister. And she loved me. She loved the doctor. She loved the nurse. She loved my brother. She was just full of love and she was so happy. And then she told me there's one thing you need to do, and it's you need to go tell my youngest what I will tell you to tell him. And I had to go find her youngest son who was 2. And everybody was keening in the house and wailing and crying. And he was by himself under the dining room table. So I crawled under there with him. And she told me what to say. I didn't have kids at that time. This is when I was 37. 2 years sober, I just didn't know anything about kids. And she had me say, you know, I wanted to be your mama. That's all I wanted to be. But meaning from her, but her body doesn't work anymore, so she had to go to heaven, but she'll always watch over you and love you. Anyway, she told me exactly what to say to him, and he understood, and he's a very well-adjusted young man today. The other two have had their ups and downs, but he's been the most solid, and he and I agree it might be because she gave him that peace.
Do you know about how we're assigned the guardian angels? And I understand that the guardian angels may be the beings that are of a higher frequency and have been for some time. You were in this form, which I want to ask more about from your experience, your NDE as well. If it weren't your body doing the back bend, then, you know, what was it? You know, and so whatever this point was that was zooming over the water and everything, you're one of those. I'm assuming Ignacio is, but maybe Ignacio is he has ascended in frequency or vibration. So how are guardian angels even formed, do we know? And how are they assigned to us? And you mentioned that they are with us over lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. Do you have any information about that, or maybe speculation?
I have only a little bit, which is that I had called Ignacio Angel up until the pandemic, and I was alone in the pandemic, and I would talk to him a lot, and he would help me. Like when I feel really lonely, he would tell me, you know, don't say I am lonely, say we are lonely. We are all lonely, you know. And when I learned to say that, it would comfort me. It's not just me who's lonely alone in my house. We are all lonely. But I said, I don't like calling you angel. It's just too religion-y, and I don't like that. And, you know, can't I call you something else? Like, have you known me as, were you my father, my husband, my whatever? And so he answered, he said, I have had so many names in so many lifetimes, and none of them are in alphabets that you know.
Right.
Okay. And I was not looking for that. But what that tells me is he's had. And then he said, names, like this is another knowing he gave me. I don't need a name. If I want to say, like, I don't know, velvet polka dot artichoke, I don't need the words. I'm thinking of a velvet polka dot artichoke, and you know it. You know, we don't need the words. So it's the same token, you know, if I mention a friend or whatever, I just think of the friend and we don't need the name. So he thinks names are dumb. They annoy him. So I was just like, you know, please, can't you just pick the last one that you had? And so then he was like, okay. So I sat down, ran downstairs. I had been upstairs. I went and got in my meditation chair, and I got all calm and closed my eyes, and, you know, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Show me. And that's when he showed me an I and a G. And I'm like, I don't know an egg except for Iggy Pop. And then he goes, he's like, cool. What's Iggy Pop's whole name? And I'm like, I have no idea. And then I'm like, Iggy. And then I said Ignacio. And I don't know where that came from, but he was like, thumbs up. And then he put an E under, capital E under the I. And so then I was like, Ignacio? And he's like, yeah. So then I looked it up, Google it, and Ignacio is the Etruscan version of Ignacio. So Etruscans preceded the ancient Greeks. That's the last time Ignacio was walking around in a living, shitting, farting, live body. Was in Etruscan times, right? And so
I'll tell you what.
It's been more than a millennium since he was embodied. And then there's a bunch of books that were transcribed from a spirit in the 70s. They're called the Seth books. And I was reading Seth Speaks. And when I read this certain line, Ignacio like butted in, as he always butts in, and goes, yes. And so Seth is saying, I am a teacher of sorts. I have students all over the universe that I visit that I am especially somehow, I can't remember how Seth puts it, suited to teach. And so Ignacio butted in when I was reading it, and he was like, me too. I am suited to teach you. And so he's wanting me to evolve. He's wanting me to become a higher person. And that's why he broke my addiction. So the other thing that I've told on many channels is about the time that I drove home so drunk in 1995 and made it across this place where the road got narrow to go over a bridge, even though I was so plastered. I was just seeing like 10 different.
You just chose the way. You're like, I'm gonna go through this way, and I hope it works out.
Yeah, I just didn't care, because I was at the point in alcoholism where you just don't want to live anymore. And when I got out of my car back at my log cabin at the time, which was supposed to make me happy, but I had only fucked up my life worse there. It was like he shot from the sky through all my defenses with this really powerful knowing, because I was so full of like ego and sickness and self-centeredness and grandiosity and just yucky things. Because I was thinking, I drive so cool when I'm like, drive like such a badass when I'm wasted. That was my thought. I'm so cool because I drive. Anyway, that just is such a disgusting thing to say.
I made it home. Yeah,
I didn't kill anybody. Yeah, but that's anyway. He shot through all that, and he's just had two resounding knowings. And the first one was, "This is the last time I can help you," and the second was, "You do know right from wrong." And they just kind of unfolded. Last time I can help you, like unfolded into. I had a sense that I should have died several times of the stupid shit I'd been doing. And I was still here. And then with the "you do know right from wrong," I'd gone off on this kind of drunken Bukowski, nihilistic, I just don't care who I screw. I just don't care what I drink or what I do. Like, this is where my alcoholism had gotten me. And I had written in my journal that good and bad, right and wrong were just part of the ant-hive's like mechanism for organizing itself, and it was no real right, wrong, good, and Ignacio was like, "No, you do know right from wrong." And so then he also helped me with the coolness thing. He showed me a coolness as this kind of, those what are they called? Harlequin clowns. Do you know what I'm talking about? They're and it was like this Pied Piper that I was following, and all the other cool wannabe cool people were following, but he was actually deaf, and he was leading me to a cliff. And I'm like, he's like, "Follow him no more." And I'm like, well, if I'm not trying to be cool, what else is there? What else is there? And he said, "There's more. Just trust me."
A little bit more than that. Just a little.
Just a little bit more, right? And so then that's why I was able to go to AA and get sober. And he also connected me to a partner. There was this lesbian girl who had been flirting with me at the coffee shop, and I just didn't really care for her, but she was sober. And I was walking past her one day with my friend, and we were giggling about how she has a crush on Louisa. And then something said to me, "Go back and tell her you'll take her up on that motorcycle ride." And I was like, to my friend, I was just like, and I ran back, and I don't know why I did this, but I said, that motorcycle ride, I'll take you up on that. And then I got in a relationship with her, and I was very codependent, which Ignacio knew. So that helped keep me sober, because if I drank, I would lose the relationship. And that was like training wheels for the first 7 years of my sobriety. She left me for another woman, but we had little boy by then. And so I put on my big girl pants and I got sober. I mean, I stayed sober for my son and for me.
That's incredible. What leads one to, you don't know in the time, you don't know in the moment.
Yes.
This is going to lead me to we're in the coffee shop.
Gonna change her. I know, if I go back and ask this woman for a motorcycle ride, I'm gonna have a son with her, and 8 years later she's gonna break my heart. Like, yeah, you just don't know that.
You just do not know. That is wild. Have you been told anything about life contracts? Total pivot here, or just anything like that? We sign
he
up for
hasn't
anything?
told me anything about my life contract. I mean, at the time when I did my past life regression, I saw a bunch of my lives, and I saw the ways that there was something similar that is me in all the different people I was. But the last one I just considered completely different from me. He was a businessman in New York City. What I did, because it was me, was Jack Warner thought that the Looney Tunes cartoons were worthless because they'd all been shown in movie theaters. So he just wanted to get rid of them. And my company bought them for $2 million. And then we syndicated them and made 10 million in the first year. And I was like so proud of that. And like, I hate money now. I hate business. I know I went and lived in New York City so that guy could see it again because he loved it. He's still with me in some ways. But he and I got in a kind of a fight during my past life regression session with me judging him knowing I was judging him, and him saying, don't you see, you climb mountains and I climbed corporations. And that it's that urge to do the next hard thing that is we both share. And I didn't want to see it, but when I've listened to the recording, I can hear a kind of passion when I'm talking for him. He had this weird old school way. He wanted me to talk like this, and I didn't want to. And he also wanted me to draw out my vowels a little bit, and I hated it. You can hear me in the recording. I'm kind of fighting not to do that because I just think it's so weird and dumb. But that's what he was doing. And so I don't know my life contract, but I know that we are, all of us NDEers, it is very important that people understand soon, very soon, that there is an afterlife. So if you go around and you take money from poor people and you hog all the resources of the world and you let people have no health care and you let them have no food stamps and you let them suffer, there's going to be consequences. There's going to be some serious karma, right? And we have to reform, people are throwing around the word communism now. All it means is sharing with other people. And, that's like right now, the 1% do not want to do that. And I feel that if we are just machines with brains and we're just little, basically robots going on, eat, have sex, poop, eat, have sex, poop, like, then there is no reason not to be a 1%er. There is no reason not to, there is no reason to care about your fellow human being. What did Elon Musk say? Empathy is a word the liberals made up. Like, we're going down the wrong path. And all of us NDEers have to spread the word that no, kindness matters, empathy matters, helping your fellow human being. These are why we are here. And there is an afterlife. One NDEer that I interviewed, she saw she was rocketing towards heaven in outer space. And there was this kind of like, where they keep the cars that they've towed, or whatever. There was a kind of a sectioned off place where she knew that Hitler was there and Ted Bundy was there. And like all of these, like it was not so much that she saw hell, but she saw them in this kind of suspended animation with their evil energy around them, and it was terrifying for her to go by them. But I just feel like a lot of people who are in control of our nation are going to end up there.
Well, I've asked in some of the other folks I've chatted with, what is Hitler or more recent people or whatever, and are they just like us, spirit? And because some folks do get more heavily into the life contract stuff, and they've had life reviews and things, and they've said, sexual assault victims, they've said, well, actually, I now realize I actually did a contract with that individual to do that to me to help correct some energies and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. And that person actually was meant to wrong me in a few past lives. Anyway, I've asked them, oh, maybe these nefarious historical figures, maybe they are sent here. It's not exactly I'm just going to call this a spiritual energy. Maybe there's something different and it's there to impose a certain energy on the world for, I don't know. I have no idea. Or are they just a spiritual energy like us? And when they're done with this life, they just go back into the afterlife and scot-free, like, and no, none of it has the, and it's maybe this is the, someone you spoke to saw kind of the junkyard over there, the gated whatever area, and maybe they are an energy just like us, but they did very bad things, and so there are consequences then, and maybe they're sectioned off. Who knows?
Who knows?
So that's
so I don't know. What I know is that our bodies carry an energy of ego, selfishness, fear, and with that comes greed, right? I've talked about this membrane, right?
Yeah.
That seals us off. I call it a God-phobic membrane, just like each cell in your body has a hydrophobic membrane.
Sure.
And if we give that power instead of connection, then we are moving towards singleness, selfishness, individuality, difference, instead of toward connection and empathy. And basically, God wants us to connect to others with love. That is what we are here to do. And I feel like every time we choose love over fear or forgiveness over anger, we make more God. So consciousness, this I was not told in my NDE. This is more just what I have cobbled together from interviewing NDEers, is that consciousness is growing, and that with the Big Bang, it just began this way of mirroring itself back to itself. Like if it was just one point of consciousness, it had nothing to interact with, nothing was happening.
Right.
And so with the Big Bang, it like separated into all these other parts, and every consciousness is kind of mirroring back and making more consciousness. So we're sort of like nerve endings of God, we're little bits of God that have spread out. And so is Wilbur. This is my other cat, Wilbur.
Hi, Wilbur.
Like Wilbur could see the ghost when the ghost was here. He could see it. And
yep.
Animals may have been human in other incarnations,
Sure.
We don't know. I have my theories about who's in Wilbur, but I do think, like, for example, the boyfriend that I had, my I guess the biggest love of my life, 9 years together, but he was alcoholic like me, and he stopped going to AA meetings, and he started up an affair with a girl his daughter's age at work. And when I found out, I just was so deeply betrayed, because my previous partner had also betrayed me, and he knew that, and it caused me so much pain. But then after he died, when he came back to me, I was running, and I had in my earphones, and I was listening to my Spotify list, and the song that came up where he talked to me first was I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor. And I was thinking, oh yeah, this is the song I always sang after Joelle left me, that I would, and then he's like, no, it's me. I'm here. I survived death. That's what he was using it for.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and he was trying to tell me about, because he died from a hemorrhage, because he had been drinking so much that he'd given himself that ulcer somewhere. And he didn't understand. He saw his body, he was outside it, and he conveyed all this to me. I couldn't get back in. I didn't understand what happened. I was so confused, and I'm still here, and
he told you about, well, it's not a near-death experience because he passed, but he was able to explain from the other side to you his
he was giving me knowing. He was giving me knowing.
Sure.
And so I'm just telling him, giving him knowings. I'm like, honey, you have to just go to the light. Don't hang out here. Go to the light. And so then the next song that came on was one that, you know how some songs play a lot on your list and some just never come up. So the next one was Sheriff, I Could Turn Back Time. And he was just there. I don't know why I did the things I did. I don't know why I said, you know, and you walked out that door and, you know, anyway, he was behind all the words. And this is another thing that spirits can do is they can manipulate your playlist and B, like choose the songs. And so then the next song he chose was Blondie, Dreamin' Is Free. And I'm running still and bawling. And I'm like, is this just a song now or are you still here? Like, I just don't know yet.
Still here?
And he's like, I'm still here. And then he's like, I want to come to you in your dreams, but I need your permission. It's a rule. And so I'm like, yes, honey, yes, you can come to me in my dreams. So then he's gone. And then for 2 weeks, I have these dreams where I'm getting his perspective on different parts of our relationship. Or sometimes, like, he's got this horrible slime all over him, which is his disease. And, like, you know, he wants to kiss me, but he knows he's, like, gross. And, you know, it's just like, it was his feelings. But the best one was that I had more education than he did. And he was not able to socialize comfortably with more than one person at a time. So in the dream, he was a professor at like Stanford, and he was like, "Don't touch my papers." And to me, and then he had dreadlocks, and he had a whole bunch of like interracial friends, and they're looking at me and going, "Why are you hanging out with that boring white man?" And like,
he was over
like,
on now, right?
That's how he had felt when we were in the relationship, which I had no idea he felt like that. But he was able to convey all that in dreams. But I do feel like we had some kind of contract that he was going to cause me that pain because I grew as a result of that pain. I'm so happily single now. You know, it like was the last member I talked about having relationship addiction, right?
Yes.
And actually, I did have to go on some really clunker dates also. But the main addiction was broken then. And then with the clunker dates, I was just like, you know what? I am just fine by myself. And I am just so happy now. It also helps that after menopause, you've got like this much sex drive. It really, yes. It helps. But life is just so full now. Life is so full now. I talk to my friends who are also like postmenopausal, and we're like, it was like we were on this weird drug that made us go running around, chasing other people, doing crazy things and compromising ourselves. And now we're off the drug and we're like, wow, life is really fun.
Right. It's like, okay, the hormones are actually where they should be, maybe, you know, post-menopause.
They're not running my life. Yeah.
They're not running your life. So, you know, 40 plus years, 44 plus years, I don't know, quite a long time. If you just like strip away all the NDE terminology and psychic experiences and like all the theory and reality about what all this means, like what are you genuinely certain about of today because of what you lived through? I know, yes, love, we're here to love each other, and maybe that's it. I'm not like that kind of came across as maybe discounting it. Is there anything that you said like humanity better learn it quickly too, so the main thing, or maybe a couple of main things, and then what are you still completely unsure of?
Well, I'll put it in the opposite terms for you, that I am not wasting time anymore with closed-hearted people. And you know, when you meet a closed-hearted person, they're totally functional and they seem to have their shit together, but you just don't feel any love from them. And they, you know, these people who, they just are waiting for you to finish saying what you're saying so that they can say what they want to say. They're just not present. They're just not with you. And it is just a waste of time, I think. It's not my job to help them learn to open their heart. They're on their own path. They have their own higher power. And this is what I feel with a lot of people who don't get sober through a spiritual program. They get sober through, what's that stuff you take that makes you not crave alcohol anymore? They take some pills when they're going to go out, or they, and they manage their addiction rather than getting to the black hole inside them that caused it, right? And for me, like, I love AA because here I have a meeting of, most of us have, I have 31 years and I'm kind of a newcomer. I have 31 years clean and sober now, but and the level of truth and honesty in that meeting that we share about is just, it's just a reset, right? And I want to be around people like that who are open-hearted, they are honest, and they are vulnerable, and they have humility. I don't want to be around people who are full of pride or egotism, or what I get the closed-hearted because Brené Brown talks about open-hearted people, right? That was in her research, and she found most open-hearted people were spiritual. That's where it comes from. I don't have enough by myself, but if I am taking from God and giving it to you, just by saying, like, go Shannon, I'm so happy you've made your channel. I'm so happy you're doing stuff. And wow, you went to Japan. I'm happy for you, right? Then I get filled back up with what I gave to you comes to me, and this is so important. What I don't know is whether humanity's gonna learn in time. It is very hard for me as a human to watch what we're doing to the planet and just watch what's happened to our democracy and what it's just, I don't know if we're going to learn in time. People tell me if it gets too warm, the oceans will acidify and die. And then we're screwed. If the plankton dies, so do we, right?
Yeah.
And people don't seem to care. And we just, as a species, we don't have the capacity to do something now to prevent something from happening in 20 or 30 years. We're just like, well, I want to make money now, so I'm going to do X. So I don't know if we're going to make it. I do know that there are plenty of other planets that have life that is evolving, that are telling their own stories. We're just one. So if we fuck up and die, then it's not that we'll fuck up and die. It's that the Earth will recalibrate. One of the things that brings me comfort is to look at the different mass extinctions that have happened on Earth. And there was one where just about everything on land was wiped out, and 90% of what was in the ocean was wiped out, and then it came back from that to make mammals. And so, maybe something better will.
I was gonna say, what you said of, I don't know if folks are gonna get it in time. And we were talking about the internet earlier, and the world is bigger, but it's also smaller at the same time. People have access to so much information, and it's pros and cons, and ability to spread misinformation is so much easier. There's just, sometimes I get, maybe not hopeless, but nervous that there's billions and billions of people on this planet now, and so many varied interests. Not interests like, oh, I'm interested in something, but malicious interests, or personal interests, I should say. That's what I'm trying to say. That I just don't know if a planet full of billions of people that now, you have social media and the internet, etc., that brings it all together in, again, a positive way, but also a negative way, misinformation, etc. Is there any hope for all these individualized interests, governments, individuals, regional interest, to have one common global interest, like, hey guys, let's get it together, environment,
Yeah. Well, when you were in Japan, did you feel how the people are much more cohesive in their respect for one another. It
Yes,
is possible. And
it
then when
is.
I was in Europe, I mean, there was no plastic. There was no single-use plastic in Europe. There was nothing. This little thing they gave us on the plane, it had a warning sign, plastic, and I showed a little sea turtle dying. Like, and it was saying, be careful how you dispose of this because it's plastic. We were in the stores and everything was glass or box except the Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Like, the rest of the world, I feel, is
Gets
moving on.
a
We are
little bit.
stuck in our kind of capitalist, greedy, mega corporation, yeah,
Uh,
lack
rut
of development.
way
Yeah,
of being.
yeah.
Yeah. I just,
So
well,
it's
that's what
possible.
I hope though it doesn't. I like with Europe and Asia, some Asian countries, Japan. I totally felt what you were describing in the positive way. I feel like it's almost out of necessity. Europe is this smaller country, so they've kind of forced to do that, which is a good thing. Same for Japan. It's a self-sustaining island. We're an island. Well, all the continents are technically islands, I guess. But like, so we better act in a more homogenized way. And so, yeah, exactly. With North America, but specifically America itself, being just not having a reason, sadly. There's a million reasons why we should be doing that too, those types of things.
It's
but
just
not
that
having,
the fossil fuel industry is never going to say, "Hey, let's stop making plastic." They're never going to say that.
right.
We
And
have
that's
to, and it's
clear.
like happening in California a little bit. But people be like, "Oh, people in California are crazy. What? They're going to outlaw single-use plastics? That's insane." No, that's sane. and
Yes.
and everything else. So I don't know either. I know what you're saying. It's just hard to know. So we'll find out. I was going to show you my other book. I don't have it, but the book rocks. What I did was I picked 33 of my best interviews with near-death experiencers and shortened the long interviews of like an hour and a half down to 2,000 words. So it tells their story, their pre-story, their story, and their after story in 2,000 words. And you read that book, it's called That Time I Died. And you just try reading that book and continuing to doubt the reality of near-death experiences. You just try it. It's 33 near-death experiences.
No, I see it. I see it on Kindle on Amazon. I was looking for it on Amazon. I was looking for the physical book. I see
There's also a physical book. There is also a physical book. So you guys, sorry about the white lady angel presiding over Seattle. That I did not choose.
No, we get it. We get it. Listen, thank you so much, Louisa. There's actually a ton I want to follow up with you on. So
we can do another follow-up later on if you want.
Oh, that would be so gracious of you. Gracious of you. Just some more specific questions I just want to ask about the NDE itself, and then just getting now more into your learnings and your knowings, and also hopefully I can read some of both Die Hard Atheist, A Spiritual Evolution, definitely That Time I Died as well, just as more context, and maybe we can talk more about that too. So
this is Beverly. Beverly is trying to tell me it's time for dinner, Mom.
Oh yeah, Beverly's like, Mom, you've been talking to this crazy guy for an hour and a half. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your week. Okay.
Okay, you too.
Thank you, Louisa. Bye.